6 or 7 a.m. and have had enough sleep that you will be able to function properly. So before we even start to think about, before we even start to think about taking your pulse or doing some other kind of fancy self-diagnosis, you have to ask yourself, what am I doing that is not cooperating with my organism? If you want to be healthy, you have to cooperate with your organism. My mentor was very clear, and he said repeatedly, and it is no less true now than it was when he told me the first time 40 years ago, it is always better to live with the reality. Because if you do not, you can be sure that reality will come to live with you. It is also true that almost always reality will come to live with you at the least convenient moment. The moment when you were just thinking, everything, yes, I know, I just need to do this one more thing I need to do. I need to, just if everything can just remain, but that's the moment usually that reality comes to live with you. When you have already overextended yourself and you're hoping that you can extend yourself a little further, that's when you fall off the cliff. How many times do you see, probably I would say at least once a week, and it will go up, that so-and-so has died because they were taking a selfie at the Grand Canyon or on the banks of Gangaji or something like that, and they fell off. Why? Was it that important? Are selfies that important? That you should lose your life? No. Are you not paying attention? You were not paying attention because you were you had been taken over by this thing. Reality came to live with you. You got so caught up in this thing that you were doing, that everybody else is doing, that you also want to do, that you get dragged into a reality that is not very agreeable. So the first thing to do is find out what it is that you require. If you are a heavy sort of person, and that doesn't mean that you are overweight, because very often you are overweight for reasons other than being big-boned, solidly built, and filled with lots of native, natural earth and water element. This is a person who has a lot of what we in Ayurveda call kapha. These people normally and naturally move slowly, think slowly, but they are consistent. They are focused, and it takes them a little more time to get some momentum going, but once they do, they can maintain that momentum for a long time. I was very fortunate when I was studying at the Ayurvedic College in Pune. I had some very fine mentors and teachers, including Dr. Vasant Lad, who since many years has lived chiefly in the United States, and Vaidya B.P. Nanal, one of the sons of the founder of the college. And Vaidya Nanal was a very brilliant Ayurvedic physician, and he was a very kapha kind of man. He was built in kind of a cubicle fashion, and he moved very slowly. He was a brilliant man, but he also thought very slowly, and there were many times that I would ask him a question. A minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes go by, and I think, all I asked him was a simple question. Could I possibly have insulted him in some way? And then I would be thinking, how possibly could I have insulted him? All he was doing was evaluating that question from several different angles so that he would be sure that he was giving me the answer that was the most accurate. So that is a person who has gravity. That word guru means heavy. A guru is a person who is heavy. That doesn't mean they weigh 300 pounds. A guru is a person who has gravity. And the reason they have gravity is because when you are a shishya, you are supposed to have the opposite quality. Lagu, you're trying to get into the adhyatmic loka. You're trying to get into the spiritual world. And the spirit is different from the terrestrial. It is not part of the earth. The earth is spiritual in its own way, but the spirit is a non-physical kind of thing. So you're trying to move in the non-physical direction, but if you want to do that successfully, you have to make sure you maintain your connection to the physical reality, because as long as you have a physical body, you have a connection to the physical reality. So the purpose of the guru, among other purposes, is to ensure that you are connected adequately well to this reality while you are connecting to that reality, so that there is a nice, organic transformation that happens instead of you coming into some kind of Kundalini crisis and getting screwed up and being screwed up, or getting into some kind of Rahuvian delusion that you have gone into some sort of advanced spiritual state when all that has happened is that your vata has become very disturbed. So gurutva doesn't mean just having a lot of heaviness. It means gravity. It means being able to evaluate things with great stability. That is the chief guna, that is the chief quality of the earth element. Stability, stairya. So we have gurutva and we have lagutva. We have heaviness and we have lightness. And we need to have a balance between the two, just like we need to have a balance between hot and cold. Some people are naturally more on the heavy side. They need to be exercising every day for at least an hour. These are the people who have kapha kind of constitution. This will do more for them than anything else. The people who are very light in nature, pitta and vata, who are always thinking or always moving around, they need to find time every day to be able to sit, to be able to bring their energy down so that it is stabilized. Because if you do not stabilize your energy every day, it will become habitually unstable. And once it is chronically unstable, you as an individual will be chronically unstable, and then you will be taking things and doing things in order to try to somehow recapture that stability, which you will not really be able to do because you're not looking at it from the causative perspective. You're not looking at what you're doing that's causing the problem. You're trying to apply a Band-Aid to it and hope that that will solve your problem. Good luck with that. The other of the three major pairs of qualities that we must consider is dry versus wet. Some people have a tendency to be very dry skin, dry hair, dry sense of humor, dry everything. And some people are moister. You want to be not too dry and not too moist, in the context of the environment in which you find yourself. If you are in a desh that is very dry, like Rajasthan, for example, you're going to have to take in more moisture and learn to live with less moisture. If you're in a place like Assam, where it's always wet, you're going to have to learn how to get rid of moisture from your system. If you are in a place that's relatively sadharana, relatively balanced, you're going to have to learn how to be less moist during the monsoon and more moist during the garmi. You're going to have to learn how to align yourself both with your desha and with your kala, both with your physical environment and with the seasons in that environment. If you do not explicitly, at least once in your life, understand how this works with you, then very likely you'll simply get into a pattern of doing things in a certain way. But that pattern may be reinforcing causative factors that are encouraging you to go in the wrong direction. Don't do that. Thank you. This is, of course, particularly true for women. I mean, it's bad enough for men, but men are just men. Women are more complicated. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's true. For one thing, men have one chief hormone. They have a bunch of hormones, but one of them is chief. That makes things easy. You either have that hormone or you don't. And that hormone either works or it doesn't. And you either pay attention to it or you don't. It's very simple. If we think of men and women, man is a very simple off-on switch. Man is either off or he's on. He's either up or he's down. A woman has about 20 switches and a bunch of dials and some readouts. And you never know exactly what's going to happen when you do one thing over here. A bunch of other things may happen over here. My friend and colleague, Dr. Claudia Welch, has written a very excellent book on hormones called, appropriately, Balance Your Hormones, Balance Your Life. And a number of interesting things that are in that book, but one that I particularly like and I have found to be true is that men get rest through action, and women come to action through rest. Because women are more complicated. They have 3 major hormones that are working at different times. There's estrogen, then there's progesterone, then there's oxytocin. And they're always at different, this is why the comparison between men and the sun is very obvious. It's about the same shape, it's about the same size, it's about the same color every day. Comes up, goes away. You can rely on it because it's not going to change. You can also rely on the moon, but the moon is never the same. Tonight, it is Dashami. It is Shukla Dashami, but it is Shukla Dashami from the Western India point of view, Bhadrapada month. And that means the moon is going to be a slightly different distance away from the Earth. It will maybe be a little bigger than it was last, and it will be in a slightly different location, and we will see it against a different pattern of stars because it is each month the moon will be getting bigger in a slightly different place because of the way that the sun is appearing to move. So there is always a change going on with women. This means if there is always change going on in one aspect of your life, something has to be stable in another aspect of your life, or there will be no balance. That's what balancing these gunas is all about. If there's too much heat and not enough cold, you're going to burn out. If there's too much cold and not enough heat, you're going to get constricted, nothing will flow, and you're going to dry up. So, which will it be? Burn out or dry up, or find a way to be in between somewhere, to be sama, to follow the madhyama marga, the middle path. So in the case of women, because they are changing all this time, they have to find a way to get adequate rest. Very difficult nowadays for a woman to do, especially because it used to be in this country that at least for 3 days out of the month, they didn't have to do anything. You could go live in the local equivalent of the so-called red tent. But that was very important because that allowed your body to rest, so then you could go back and start handling everything again. So now women are not even getting that rest anymore. So it's not surprising that their bodies are not functioning well because they don't get enough rest. Dr. Welch said that she used to be very annoyed with her husband because whenever he would get off work, he would immediately go out and ride his bicycle around or start working on the house or something. And he said, "You've just been working all day. Now you need to rest." But that's not the way men are. Men need to work off some of that energy so that they can rest. Women need to make sure that they are resting so they can accumulate enough energy to keep going out and doing and giving and acting as they need to do. So you need to ask yourself, not just in the context of man and woman, you need to ask yourself, how much rest do I require and how can I get that rest? Yes, we know you have all kinds of responsibilities, and yes, you have to go to work, and yes, there's the family, and yes, there's everybody else. But you have to find a way to get enough rest that is required for you, however much that happens to be. You have to discern how much rest is appropriate for you. You can be sure that however much that is not the amount that you're getting now, because we live in a world in which rest is not valued. There used to be a time when rest was valued. That time is over. That boat has sailed. That horse has left the stable. That car is out of the garage. We are now in a place, who knows how long it's going to take before the pendulum swings backwards, but right now there is no rest. So that means each one of us has to locate a way to rest. And that could be even putting your head down on your desk for 10 minutes and losing consciousness for that brief period of time. This works really well for me. Sometimes even 1 minute is enough. Just need to disconnect from everything, even sometimes for 1 minute, so that everything drops, and then it's just like taking your computer. I don't know do any of you use computers? Okay. I don't know if you've noticed, I am a lazy person, so I usually leave my computer on for several days at a time. But if you do that, what happens is that the OS gets, the version that has come up gets corrupted. So after a while, it will just stop working right. What would be better, except that I'm lazy, is to turn it off regularly so that it can start again and it can recompile the version that it's going to use, and that everything can move smoothly. But this applies to you too. You need to turn off the programs that are running so that you can reboot them. And sometimes a minute is enough. Sometimes you need 5 or 10. 20 is more than enough. Nobody really needs ever to take a nap of more than 20 minutes until you become like 85 or 90. Then you should feel free to sleep for 2 hours, because what else are you going to do? That's your job. Your job now is to spend a lot of time inert. In the same way that the job of a child is to spend a lot of time inert and not be playing whatever they play nowadays. I mean, 2 years ago it was Angry Birds. Who knows what it is now? Maybe it is Happy Pigs. Whatever it is. So, whatever your gender, you have to find out the right amount of rest, and you have to take it, and preferably, especially when it comes to sleep, please, 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 do not go to bed later than 11 p.m. Because what happens after 11 p.m. is your hormones start to change. And you start to kick into a mode where you are being active again. And then your body cannot rest, because now the hormones have changed, and now the hormones are telling the body to be active again. If you were already asleep, it doesn't matter, because your body is not going to take that stimulus and have it express itself the way it expresses itself if you're still awake. So, if you value your health, and I'm assuming since you're here, you at least are telling yourself you value your health. Whether you're actually telling yourself the truth or not is your business. If you value your health, you absolutely must go to sleep before 11 p.m. Unless, yes, you were working on a shift, a late shift, and then you have to do something different. But let's assume you're not doing that. And let's assume that, in fact, you can go to sleep before 11 p.m. Thank you very much for doing that. This will, at the very least, allow you to get up earlier and the earlier you go to bed, the better. Because what's important is your physical body, and your physical body was engineered to be diurnal. That means to function during the day. It is not nocturnal. If it was, we could see at night. If it was, we could echolocate like bats or do something else, but we cannot. Our job was to be awake during the day and then to find a cave somewhere that we could go into so we could not be eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. or whatever. So that means we were engineered